Howdy folks, I'm Max from LED Tonic, and in this video we're going to talk about the light terms PAR, PPFD and PPF. These terms are commonly used to describe the amount of light that lamps emit, and we often see that these terms are confused with one another, or that potential shoppers simply are unaware of their meaning and thus can't correctly assess a grow light's performance. Understanding these terms will enable you to better compare different lamps and choosing one that's right for your situation and grow space. It will also simplify the process of positioning a lamp at the correct distance and therefore give you the best possible chances of a successful grow. Starting with PAR, or photosynthetically active radiation. All light consists of photons. Photons are elementary particles that has both the properties of a particle and a wavelength. Basically, photons are small packages of energy that plants need to create carbohydrates via photosynthesis. These photons are emitted by all light sources, and the more photons a light source emits, the brighter we interpret that source to be. Each wavelength has its specific color. Blue colored light has a shorter wavelength than red colored light, and the wavelength is expressed in nanometer, or nm. Not all wavelengths will drive photosynthesis and plant growth. The wavelengths that plants use are often referred to as PAR, or photosynthetically active radiation. This is light within the spectral range of 400 to 700 nanometers, which also coincidentally is the same spectral range that we call visible light, the same spectral range that us humans can see. Below this range, 400 nanometers and downwards, we have UV light and X-rays, and above this range, 700 nanometers and upwards, we have far-red light, infrared and radio waves. Photons with wavelengths outside of the PAR range, the range that's also called visible light, will not be detected by our eyes. If you ever had an X-ray, as example, you may remember the huge machine scanning you, but you never noticed it emitting any light. This is because X-ray wavelengths are outside of the PAR range. Moving on to PPFD, photosynthetic photon flux density. Simply put, this is a value of how many photons hit a specific area every second, or how intense light hits a specific area. PPFD is measured in this unit, micromoles per meter squared per second. Without diving too deep into this term, the higher the number, the more photons are landing in the area that is measured. As example, the headlights of a car emit a much more intense light than a small desk lamp. This means that the car's headlights emit more photons than a desk lamp. If we would do a PPFD measurement, measure the micromoles per meter square per second, a foot from a car headlights, and take another measurement about a foot from a desk lamp, the PPFD value would be much higher from the car's headlights. The same applies to grow lights. Different grow lights will emit different quantities of photons, different quantities of light. Another example would be dimmable lights. You may have a ceiling lamp or spotlights that are dimmable. If the lamp is set to maximum and emits its brightest light, the PPFD measured below would be higher than if it were set at a lower setting, dimmed down to a lower setting. We know how many photons or how intense light various plants prefer. Giving plants less than the ideal amount of light would hinder their growth potential, but giving too intense light could cause leaf burn and also hinder growth. Plants in their very early stage need less intense light. Mature plants, and especially fruit-bearing plants such as tomatoes, peppers or cannabis, need more intense light than non-flowering plants such as salad, microgreens or basil. We'll talk more about PPFD in a coming video, where we'll also present how many PPFD various plants prefer, how PPFD is measured, how to adjust a lamp to give the right intensity of light, and why light footprint maps or PPFD charts are necessary to understand grow lights. Moving on to PPF, which should not be confused with PPFD. PPF stands for photosynthetic photon flux and is measured in this unit, micromoles per second. PPF is commonly used when referring to how much light a lamp is producing in total each second. It does not tell us where the light ultimately lands or how strong light is at a certain place. The PPF of a lamp is constant, whereas the PPFD can increase and decrease depending on the distance between the lamp and the area where it's measured. The PPF is also often used together with the wattage, as PPF divided by wattage will tell us how efficient a lamp is, sometimes displayed in PPF per watt, or more accurately, micromoles per joule. To simplify this a little, plants will not care about how much electricity in watts a lamp uses, how efficient it is, or how much light it produces in total. This information is valuable when comparing lamps and when estimating the electricity bill or calculating electricity costs. But plants won't care about this. Plants will only care how much light that lands on its leaves. They will only care about the PPFD levels where they are placed. When selecting a lamp for your grow space, you need to know what PPFD your plant prefers and how large area a lamp can cover with that intensity. This requires detailed intensity maps, as light intensity is more or less impossible to estimate with our eyes. Most people don't have a light measuring tool such as a quantum sensor, and PPFD maps from the lamp's manufacturer must be relied upon. More about this in an upcoming video. For now, what we hope you'll all take away from this video are the following. PAR stands for photosynthetically active radiation. It is a specific range of wavelengths within the electromagnetic spectrum. Wavelengths that will drive photosynthesis and stimulate plant growth. PPFD stands for photosynthetic photon flux density, is measured in micromoles per meter square per second, and it describes how intense light, how many photons that hits a specific area each second. PPF stands for photosynthetic photon flux, is measured in micromoles per second, and it describes the total amount of photons emitted by a lamp every second. That's all for now. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need help setting up your grow or if you have any questions. And until next time, happy farming.